Coffee has a history that stretches back more than 1,000 years, with legends, myths, trade routes, empires, revolutions, and cultural rituals, all shaping its journey into the everyday drink we know today. To understand coffee's story, we must travel first to the highlands of Ethiopia, where, according to legend, a goat herder named Kaldi noticed that his animals became unusually energetic after eating the bright red cherries from a certain plant. Intrigued, he tried them himself, and soon the world's relationship with coffee began. Though historians cannot verify Kaldi's story, Ethiopia is indeed the birthplace of the Arabica coffee plant, and the people of that region had long been aware of the stimulating properties of the beans, often mixing them with fat to create a sort of primitive energy snack, rather than brewing them as a drink. The true shift happened when coffee crossed the Red Sea into Yemen, sometime around the 15th century. In the Arabian Peninsula, Sufi mystics began brewing coffee as a hot beverage, using it to stay awake during long nights of prayer and meditation. From Yemen, coffee spread across the Islamic world, first to Mecca and Medina, then to Cairo, Damascus, and Istanbul. Coffee houses, known as kahvekhane, began to appear in major cities, and they quickly became gathering places for intellectual discussion, music, and social life. These early coffee houses became known as schools of the wise, where scholars, poets, and politicians exchanged ideas. Coffee was more than a drink. It was a cultural force, a spark that encouraged conversation, thought, and sometimes even dissent. It is little wonder that, on more than one occasion, rulers attempted to ban coffee, fearing its association with free thinking and social unrest. Yet each attempt failed, and the drink only grew more popular. By the 16th century, the Ottoman Empire had fully embraced coffee. In Istanbul, elaborate traditions developed around coffee preparation, with methods using finely ground beans boiled in small copper pots called set. Serving coffee became an art form, with presentation, aroma, and hospitality as important as taste. Marriage customs even involved coffee. In some households, a woman's skill at preparing it was seen as a measure of her readiness for marriage. Meanwhile, European travelers and traders visiting the Ottoman Empire encountered coffee for the first time, and they were fascinated by the dark, bitter drink that seemed to energize and focus the mind in ways wine or ale could not. When coffee entered Europe in the 17th century, it was met with both fascination and suspicion. At first, some religious leaders condemned it, calling it the bitter invention of Satan. But in 1600, Pope Clement VIII tasted coffee himself and declared that it was so delicious that it would be a sin to let only non-Christians enjoy it. His approval helped to silence critics and open the doors for coffee to sweep across the continent. Coffee houses began appearing in Venice, London, Paris, and Vienna. Each city gave coffee its own cultural role. In London, coffee houses became known as penny universities, because for the price of a single penny, one could buy a cup of coffee and engage in lively discussions with merchants, scientists, and philosophers. In Paris, coffee houses became hubs of art and literature, frequented by thinkers such as Voltaire, who is said to have consumed dozens of cups a day. In Vienna, after the failed Ottoman siege of 1683, sacks of coffee left behind by retreating soldiers helped fuel the creation of Viennese cafe culture, complete with pastries and cream that softened coffee's bitterness. Coffee's expansion beyond Europe was tied directly to colonialism. European powers realized that coffee could be cultivated in tropical regions, and they sought to break the Arab monopoly on production. The Dutch smuggled coffee plants to their colonies in Java, Indonesia, in the 1600s, creating the first large-scale coffee plantations. The French, followed by planting coffee in the Caribbean, the Portuguese in Brazil, and the Spanish in Central America. Coffee quickly became a global commodity, but its growth was tied to systems of exploitation, slavery, and forced labor. Plantations demanded enormous amounts of manpower, and enslaved Africans were forced to work in grueling conditions to meet the rising European demand. Behind every elegant European cafe was a hidden history of suffering on distant plantations. By the 18th and 19th centuries, coffee had become one of the world's most traded commodities, and it played a role in revolutions and political movements. In America, The Boston Tea Party of 1773 encouraged many colonists to switch from tea to coffee as a patriotic gesture, helping to cement coffee as the preferred drink in the United States. In Europe, coffee houses remained breeding grounds for revolutionary ideas, with newspapers, pamphlets, and heated debates circulating in their smoke-filled rooms. In this way, coffee was not just fuel for individuals, but for entire social and political transformations. The Industrial Revolution further changed coffee culture. The pace of factory life, urban living, and office work required alertness, and coffee became the perfect stimulant for the modern age. New methods of roasting and brewing were developed, and coffee consumption spread among the working classes. In the 20th century, coffee culture expanded again with the rise of instant coffee, making it quick and easy to prepare even in wartime or remote locations. During World War II, American soldiers were given instant coffee rations, and when they returned home, they carried the habit with them, boosting the popularity of brands that could provide convenience in every cup. Yet the late 20th century also saw a pushback against instant coffee and mass production, leading to what some call the coffee revolutions. The first wave was the spread of coffee as a global commodity. The second wave was the rise of specialty coffee shops, such as Starbucks, which introduced espresso drinks, cappuccinos, and lattes to mainstream Western audiences. These created a new culture around coffee as both a daily ritual and a social experience. The third wave, emerging in the late 20th and early 21st century, emphasizes artisanal approaches, fair trade, direct sourcing from farmers, and a focus on quality and unique flavor profiles. Today, coffee lovers treat beans like fine wine, noting their origins, tasting notes, and brewing techniques. Behind the culture, however, coffee continues to raise questions about sustainability, labor, and fairness. Coffee is still largely produced in developing countries, while most profits are captured in wealthy nations. Climate change threatens the delicate balance required to grow Arabica beans, and farmers often struggle to make a living wage. At the same time, innovations in fair trade, direct trade, and sustainable farming practices offer hope for a more equitable future. Coffee has always been more than just a beverage. It has been a mirror reflecting the complexities of human history, discovery, exploitation, creativity, and community. From the mountains of Ethiopia to the bustling coffee shops of modern cities, the story of coffee is one of transformation and connection. It is the story of a drink that traveled the world, shaped economies, inspired revolutions, fueled creativity, and continues to bring people together across cultures and continents. To sit with a cup of coffee today is to participate in a tradition that spans centuries, linking us not only to our own routines, but to the countless lives, struggles, and triumphs that have made coffee what it is. Even now, as baristas carefully craft lattes with delicate art on their surfaces, or as millions brew a simple cup at home to start the day, coffee remains a symbol of energy, community, and possibility. Its history is still being written, one cup at a time.